Assalamu alaikum dear students. Today our lecture is about Administrative Penalty Rules 2005, Hazardous Substances Rules and Hospital Waste Management Rules 2005. It is actually one of the series of the rules and regulations as prepared by the federal agency, and it is supposed to be implemented by the respective authorities. Most probably these will be directly handled by the provincial authorities, which include our environmental department, and particularly the agencies, provincial agencies will be responsible for implementing these rules. As in the previous lecture, we talked about so many rules and regulations developed by the federal as well as provincial agencies, and then those rules and regulations must be implemented. First of all, those rules and regulations must be in accordance with the Act. So, in view of the Act 1997, all these rules and regulations have been prepared, and now they are fulfilling specific purposes which are directly related with the provincial jurisdiction and their responsibility. Now, there is a huge number of rules and regulations which have been developed and which are being implemented. Only we will be talking about some very important ones, and those ones which are directly in application and utilization by the agencies, environmental protection agencies. So, talking about the hazardous waste, and particularly we are more concerned with the hospital waste, considering it one of the um, important hazardous waste component. There are rules and regulations developed for hospital waste management. So how these rules and regulations will be implemented, it will be directly linked with the document which we are going to review at this moment. Similarly, hazardous waste is also have been developed. Some rules and regulations have been developed for that hazardous waste management, and then we will also talk about the performance which we need to fulfill for the authorization of the penalty. So, first of all, let's have a quick view on the Hospital Waste Management Rules 2005. As in all the standard formats, as previously observed, we need to clarify what this notification is about, and this notification is mainly under the uh, directly linked with the Pakistan Environmental Protection Act 1997. And now, if you further move forward, you will be first of all declaring its short title, and that's Hospital Waste Management Rules 2005. And then they shall come into force at once. This is the time duration for its implementation. And then the very important thing is about the definitions of different terms being utilized in these rules. So what word particularly means with reference to these rules. So, for example, Act is the same as 1997 one. Then we have chemical waste. What nature of chemical waste will be included in this hospital waste management? It will be about the chemicals from the diagnostic experimental work. So most of the pathological labs which are using chemicals, that will be included in this section. And then some of the mercury waste from the broken clinical equipments, for example thermometers are broken, they will be liberating some mercury, and similarly some other chemicals which are being utilized in different equipments, those are here mentioned here in terms of chemical waste. And we have them another term, genotoxic waste. It is about the toxic drugs and outdated materials. Then some of the samples collected from the which are considered to be hazardous from the patients, like some of the body parts, and then some other things which will be declared as genotoxic ones. And then what is the meaning of government? It's about the federal government or provincial government in which the hospital is located. Then health officer means district health officer. And then hospital means clinical, laboratory, dispensary, pharmacy, nursing home, health unit, maternity center, blood bank. All these things are actually included in the term hospital. Hospital waste will be directly linked with the risk waste as well as the non-risk waste. Infectious waste will be the waste contaminated by any type of pathogens such as bacteria, viri, and parasites and fungi, which include cultures from laboratory and surgeries. And then we have waste from the infected patients, discarded or disposable materials like syringes and some other materials. And then local council will be the council in that geographical limit in which the hospital is located. For example, our municipal administrations like FDA or municipal corporations, and particularly in case of our city we have waste management company as well. So that can be one of the local council's representatives which will be required. Then we have a medical superintendent who is the head of the hospital. Non-risk waste will be the most of the non-risk waste will be including the cardboards and paper packagings, food waste, aerosols, and similar things. Pathological waste will be tissues, organs, body parts, and body fluids. Pharmaceutical waste will be including expired medicines. Similarly, radioactive waste will be coming from the source from of the radio uh, X-ray departments and some other similar activities. And risk waste means infectious waste, pathological waste, sharps, and pharmaceutical waste. All these will be included in the risk waste. Then a section means a section of the act. So please, I think it's quite clear now by now that section is always referred to the act. Sharp includes whether infected or uh, not, needles, syringes, scalpels. Waste management means segregation, waste collection, and waste transportation, waste storage. So these are the words which are normally used in these rules and regulations. If something is not defined here, it will be considered with reference to our Act 1997. So the responsibility for the waste will be mostly uh, in accordance with the provision of the Act and the rules starting from 16 to 22, which we will be discussing later. So this is something about the waste management team. Who will be the leader? Medical superintendent will be the chairman. Then head of all the hospital departments will be the members. Infection control officer member, and chief pharmacist will be the member. Radiology officer and senior matron, head of administration, hospital engineer, sanitation officer. So other staff members as medical superintendent may designate can be one of the members. So district administration will also having its participation, and maybe someone coming from the developing authority of that city or coming from the hospital waste management company will also be representative of that organization, and that will he will participate in these in this team formation, waste management team, because it is a very vital department which will be responsible for carrying the waste from the hospital and finally disposing, because most of the team members are relevant with the hospital insight management, but it is also required that we need some external linkages, external sources to carry the waste to the further distances and to the final disposal points. So we need some hospital, so we need some administrative responsible person who deals with the overall municipality waste disposal systems. So, in a hospital where the post under sub rule do not exist, the medical superintendent shall designate another member to perform the duties. So I think it's quite self-explanatory. And then duties and responsibility of the team, waste management team, these will be prepared and monitoring periodic reviews, revisions and updating, and it will be necessary, and the waste management plan is necessary, and for supervision of all these actions uh, taken in compliance with the provision of these rules. These are the responsibilities for the waste management team. So its meetings should be continuous and at least twice in a month is required, and 1/3 of the members must be making the quorum of the meeting. And then the responsibilities of the medical superintendent will be to develop a team, to designate the waste management officer, to facilitate the meetings and ensure the implementation of the decisions, supervise implementation, monitoring and review of the plan, and then arrange of the waste audit of the hospital by an external agency. So all these are the duties of the medical superintendent. So he will be doing all these activities, ensuring adequate training and refresher courses to the concerned hospital staff who are engaged in dealing with the hospital waste directly. So duties and responsibilities of the HODs, it will be ensuring that all doctor nurses are well aware of the waste management procedures, and they have acquired the proper training for these management procedures, and then arrange proper supervision of the sanitary staff to ensure that they comply with the waste management procedures at all the times. So similarly, we have some infection control officer duties which are identified here, and guiding, advising the control of infection and standards of the waste disposal systems, identifying training requirements for each category of the staff, and refresher courses for the procedures. And then chief pharmacist has its own responsibilities, and we will be having some responsibility of the radiology officers, how they will be handling it. So please go through all these requirements. I think it's quite self-explanatory. These are the duties, and you can go through these details of these duties. Now what is this waste management plan? That is quite important. So how to make a plan? And a waste management plan shall be prepared by the waste management officer and for approval by the waste management team, and shall be based on the internationally recognized EMS systems, and as ISO 14000 series has uh, prepared the guidelines. So the waste management plan should include a plan of the hospital showing the disposal points for every ward and department, indicating whether each point is for risk or for non-risk, and then details of the types, numbers and containers, waste bags. All these things must be counted, and part of the preparations as done for the waste management plan, and will be prepared by the waste management officer. And the timetables for the frequency of waste collection, it's very important. And then duties and responsibilities must be highlighted to every person who is involved in this activity. An estimate of the number of staff members required for waste collection must be known. And then um, the procedures for the waste for the management of waste requiring special treatment, such as autoclaving before final disposal, these must be prepared by the waste management officer as a plan. And then the trainings must be planned, and then the emergency procedures must be prepared. All these things are a part of the management plan. Then the representative of a local responsible authority will be there, who will be executing the final disposal, uh, and in consultation with the finalization of the waste management plan. The plan shall be regularly monitored, reviewed, and revised. Now, this is another important point. So it is 16th number, waste segregation. So segregation is the procedure through which the sorting of the waste is conducted. So what is sorting? It is actually the separation of waste based on its category and its nature, particular nature, whether it's hazardous or non-hazardous, risk or non-risk waste, or it is disposable, it is degradable or non-degradable. So any kind of category must be properly segregated, separated, and must be separately collected for its final disposal, because every nature, every category of the waste has its own procedures for the disposal. So we must very carefully segregate every kind of the waste. So it is quite important, and we need to separate based on the categories. Risk waste is separated, and then the shops are separated. For pharmaceutical waste, hazardous waste are separated, and then shops, and then danger, contaminated shops, everything must be properly uh, separated and collected in their respective containers. And there should be specific procedures for their for minimizing their exposure to the handlers, as well as to the general public which is passing by those areas. So all these are very important instructions, and these must be very carefully adopted and implemented. So waste collection is another important thing. So waste collection is actually the procedures by which will be done by the janitorial staff, and that staff must be trained for these purposes. And these sanitary staffs must ensure the waste is collected at least once daily, and then all the bags are labeled before the removal, so that we should know what is the category of these wastes. And then they should be kept, they should be disposed finally, and then removed from the container, and properly cleaned. The container is supposed to be properly cleaned before the new bag is entered. Now this is something about the waste transportation. For on-site transportation, a waste collection trolley shall be free of sharp edges, easy to load and unload and to clean, and preferably a stable 3 or 4 wheeled design with high sides, so that the waste is safely shifted from one place to the other for the final disposal. So these are the rules which must be adopted by the uh, any organization which is titled as hospital. And then these rules must be strictly implemented by the waste management officer. He is responsible for preparing these procedures as a management waste management plan. And then this transportation, off-site transportation, must be at least once a day, and then So off-site is actually responsible for the responsibility of the local council. That local council is the municipality corporation, which is dealing with the overall solid waste management of the city. So it is considered how these waste will be carried forward. Then waste storage for the time being within the hospital locality must be properly segregated and properly locked and closed. Premises close to the incinerator, and if there is an incinerator in the hospital, or these services can be borrowed from other organizations which are having this facility. For example, if bigger hospitals have the incinerators, the small hospitals must shift their waste to those facilities for the final incineration process. So all these things are kind of explanation. So waste disposal, and again the incinerator burning is incinerator has its own rules and regulations. So we must also follow those rules and regulations for incinerator burning, because incineration is a process in series in which we need to maintain the temperature, and there must be three chambers, and the maximum temperature must be up to 1100 degrees centigrade, and all uh, and the waste reduction must be up to 10% of the total waste being incinerated. And then that ash, which is residual of the waste, it must be collected separately, and it should be properly disposed through the local council representative, and it should be ensured that it is properly disposed in the landfill sites for without any leakage or without any exposure to the general public of that area. So all these incineration has its own rules and regulations. At the moment we are only talking about hospital waste management rules in journal. So if you are interested, you must search out how we will be dealing with this. And then so please go through these explanation, and all these things are part of the management plan. Waste minimization and reuse, you can go through these things. And then hospital waste management advisory committee, the federal government shall be by notification in the official gazette constitute of hospital waste management advisory committee, and it is going to have these members. So it is only for Islamabad territory, and so phased implementation. May by notification, federal government may by notification in the official gazette exempt any class of hospital from all or any of the provisions of these rules. Applicability of section 14. So what is this application of section 14? It is about the handling of the hazardous waste. If you go back and check the different sections of the EPA Act, then you will find out that the section 14 was about the hazardous waste management, hazardous substance handling. So the each hospital generating risk must apply the issuance of license for handling substances, and the provisions of the section 14 shall apply for the purpose of granting these uh, such licenses. Then we have some administrative penalty rules, and actually these rules are how we can impose the penalty for any non-compliance. So in that case we need to have some performance, and then we can go further for the procedures as adopted by the local environment protection department and its representatives. Those performers are already available, so I will request you to please go through those performers and find out what kind of information you need to fill those performers. Similarly, hazardous substances rules are also available in order to compliance with the section 14 as provided. So it is your homework. Please go through this, and it is also a part of your course which will be included in the exam. So thank you very much for your time.